According to the NAACP, image is everything. I used to think so too until about 40 years ago. This is a chart that shows that 3% of the U.S. businesses were Black or African American owned. They call us Black, sometimes African American, in 2022. And I won't say a lot about this because next week when we get into colorism, we're also going to speak about some of the challenges, including racism, that some of the quote unquote Black owned businesses encounter. But in 2022, there were almost 195,000 US firms with the majority Black or African American ownership, according to the statistics. Now, despite the growth, the majority business owners made only up about 3%, as you can see there. And as far as because they lumped all the billionaires with the those living in America and those living in Africa, most of them were in Nigeria. But as far as the number of actual African businesses that were African owned, whether they were in Angola or West Africa, South Africa, wherever, they total 67 million. And that number seems like a lot, but there's some other differences that we need to talk about, and we'll get into next week. These next few slides, I won't go over each one, but you can go back through the videos later and you can pause and you can take a look at these numbers. I'll just go, I did the comparison between the Black men and white men, the comparison of Black men and white men, and this has to do with the median earnings, okay? Comparison of Asian men and Asian women, comparison of white men and white women, and comparison of Hispanic men and Hispanic women, and over to us, comparison of Black men and Black women, okay? And of course, you know that the men always, as far as the annual earnings, are much higher than the women, no matter what race you're referring to, okay? That's just the nature of the system that we live in, okay? But our earnings are comparatively lower than the other races, except for they have listed here as Hispanic, who seem to be a little bit lower than ours. But remember, these are all statistics, and not everything is always reported. This is the category of the expenditures and what we spend our money on. We have what the average is for the Black households, but then we have for the high income Black households compared to the low income Black households. I remember a cousin of mine told me a long time ago, she said that you'd be surprised at the differences as far as the incomes. We have Black people who actually do have money, okay? And there's just the differences that exist. And sometimes we're not always aware of that, but it does exist. Remind you, you can go back and stop on each one of these, and just for you to peruse and see what we spend on the different areas that we spend things on, okay? And this shows from 2010 to 2012. And I just want to make special note when you look at this, that for housing, there's the biggest amount was we spent on housing, okay, compared to, if you look at, and I think then the next one is transportation and tobacco and smoking supplies, personal insurance and pensions, okay, entertainment, healthcare, actually healthcare before entertainment. Education is a very small piece. Miscellaneous expenditures, there's our cash contributions. I want you to look at one that said like the personal care. Now this was 2010 to 2012, and I want you to look at that personal care as a very slim piece right there. Very small percentage during that time, what we actually, as melanated people, what we spend our money on. Oh, and also the alcoholic beverages comparatively was very, very small. Okay? But keep in mind, I want you to keep in mind that personal care piece for a reason. Now, this is Anissa Roberts. Okay. She is an award-winning journalist, copywriter, and editor. Okay. She's written in the USA Today Network, the Spruce Ramsey Solutions, Davy Ramsey Company, and so forth. Okay. Um, Now, she's originally from Trinidad and Tobago. Okay. She earned her BA in journalism from the University of Kentucky and resides in Nashville, Tennessee area. Okay. And I'm telling you all that for a specific reason. Okay. She is one that has one of the quotes she gave. She says, Black people are most likely to consume products, but are financially behind white and Latino counterparts. And that's according to research. While most Americans report feeling as though they live paycheck to paycheck, minorities are most likely to face ongoing wealth gaps compared to their white peers. Okay. And if you notice, this is the categories where the percentage of Black spending is greater in proportion to their population. The population in America is 14%. And if you notice, look at the top there, the ethnic hair and beauty aids, 54.4 million, okay, compared to the total spend, okay, in America of 83.3. And so our percent of total spend that's contributed to us is 85%. Then look at the women's fragrances, feminine hygiene, men's toiletries, personal soap, and bath needs. Okay. Now, there was an article that's called Race and Consumption, Black and White Disparities in Household Spending from 2017. And they examined the consumption of Black consumption from a structural perspective. And they argued that the Black household faces a unique constraints that restricts their ability to acquire the necessary goods and services. Okay. Most of the researchers focus on earnings or their wealth accumulation, and they miss the disparities because the disparities arise in the process of spending one's resources. They found that Black households tend to have lower levels of total spending than their white counterparts, and that the disparities tend to persist across income levels. Now, mind you, these areas that we just mentioned that you see on the screen are a little bit different. Okay, those are mostly in personal care. But for goods and services, for certain other necessary items, they found there were three factors. Okay, that is why the gap in the racial spending. It was access to credit, okay? Retail and service desertification. That's like the food deserts. They exist when the retail stores and outlets and they move and relocate when neighborhoods become more populated with low income and segregated majority Black households, okay? The retail deserts have been found for grocery stores, banks, healthcare providers, gas stations, pharmacies, and clothing outlets, okay, and so forth. Then the third is consumer discrimination. The biased treatment of non-white customers in retail and service settings, such as being denied service or steered toward lower quality alternatives, okay? Uh, what era are we in again? Okay. And this is from the blackwallstreet.org. Okay. They show about the Black spending index by industry. Now, you won't find housing on here because they just have different industries. But it's interesting if you look on here that the beauty and personal care is a huge chunk. Okay. Actually, one of the biggest industries, and that's today. Okay. Now, despite the gains of all the monies and the millionaires and billionaires that we have, um, this disparity in the buying power is distributed and leveraged. Okay. And here's one of the reasons: the vast majority of Black consumer dollars are spent outside of the Black community, which limits the economic benefits for Black-owned businesses and families. Studies show that money circulates within the Black communities far less frequently than it does in others, such as in the Asian and Jewish communities, where the dollars are reinvested multiple times before leaving. This disparity underscores the need for intentional spending to build lasting wealth. Well, those who know me, I have a different solution for that. Well, we're looking at these different household charts. Okay. This one is for the household unsecured debt holding rates. Okay. The white non-Hispanic householders, they group together. Okay. Those are represented in red, and the Black householders in blue. And you can see there's a huge gap. So the unsecured debts, okay, credit card, store bills, student loan, education related expenses, medical debts, and so unsecured debts. And this one, the distribution of household net worth by amount of net worth and the race of the householder. Okay, so you can see that we still lag behind our white and non-Hispanic householder counterparts. Okay, and of course, this one is the median value of assets for the households. Notice that wealth is the value of the assets owned minus the value of your debts that you owe. Okay. It provides the economic security, serving as a source of liquidity during times of unstable income or in the face of unexpected expenses and opportunities for upward mobility. So how we saw households with a white non-Hispanic householder were 10 times wealthier than those with a Black householder, and that was in 2021. Okay. Now, according to research last year, okay, we're talking in 2024, Black consumers spent almost